Welcome to the story time at the Batesville Memorial Public Library. I'm Mrs. Dickey. This book is about a snake. Do you see some of my friends, the snakes, hanging around in this tree? We'll talk about them in a moment. I'm a Big Snake is the name of this, by Lydia de Blasi. There's the title page. Lots of snakes on that title page. I am a rattlesnake, and I was born in the desert, and all snakes come from eggs, but mine hatch while they're inside of my mother. Now, did you know that? That's an interesting thing. So she doesn't lay her eggs. The eggs are just inside, and the eggs, out of the eggs come these baby snakes. When I was about a week old, I shed my skin, and I left it there among the rocks, and maybe you will find it one day. Now the skin comes off because the snake gets bigger, and when it gets bigger, it has to get the outside covering of him off. So sometimes when you're in the rocky area like he is, it's because they've rubbed and rubbed their snout against the side of a rock, and that's what allows it to peel off of his body. Because he doesn't have any hands, he can't pick it off. Like all snakes, my body is covered with scales, and I'm soft, not slippery. You might be surprised when you touch me. I sleep in a coil during the day, and at night I go out to hunt for insects. Ooh, look at his fangs. This is how I defend myself. I hunt for food, which I can swallow whole. His little jaws disconnect, and he can actually swallow a pig. That's how wide his jaw can come apart. I can smell and taste with my tongue as it sticks out. I can sense heat from other animals that might be hiding nearby, like this little chipmunk. Maybe that's not a chipmunk. We'll have to find out. And I use the two holes on the sides of my nose, and that is another way that I can tell whether there's heat around me. Most snakes, like this, are egg eaters. See how he's opened his jaw so wide to swallow one of the eggs? The egg eaters are harmless to humans. That means they're not poisonous. Look how wide she can open her mouth. Look how big those eggs were. And look what happens when she swallows. It goes down into her body. It may be days and days before she eats again because she has so much food from that one feeding. Other snakes have strong venom, stronger than mine, like some of the sea snakes that are here under the water in the coral reef with those beautiful fish. They can catch fish at the bottom of the sea, but they have to come up to get air because they can't swim and they can't breathe underwater, like fish have gills. And boas, that's one up here, and pythons, that's the one hanging here, and anacondas. They are the biggest snakes. You might see them in Florida, for instance. They have a lot of anacondas. And when they hunt, they wrap around tightly their prey, and they actually crush all the little bones in the bodies before they open their mouth to eat them. Snakes really like the heat. And we are one of just a few animals that can survive in a desert. Do you see him down in a little pocket? This is like a burrow for some animals. He goes down there when it gets too hot for shade, but he really likes being out and basking in the sun. Whoa, look at this. Snakes have a pretty bad reputation, but we are very important. If there were no snakes, many other animals would miss us, like this animal. This animal is a bird that it will drop down and he will take a hold of his middle and then take his beak and hold on to the head so it will not hurt the bird. And then after he has crushed it, then he begins to eat the snake. So it's food for some other animals in the desert. Well, the venomous, but all my friends are harmless snakes. They won't hurt. Try and get to know us. We're truly wonderful creatures. You see this one that has the colors? You can tell that he is dangerous. So you want to stay away from an animal that has many stripes. So snakes that like this are venomous and they will hurt you. And this one is a rattlesnake and he could hurt you too. So you want to be very careful when you're out walking around because even in the Indiana woods, we have rattlesnakes. And they live here just like they do in the desert. But what is different is that they don't have hot weather, so they have to go down and burrow down into the ground, and they hibernate during the winter time. Now, here we have a python. He's quite large. I introduced him in another book we had. His name is Hiss, because all you see is his tongue, and he seems to like to hiss, hiss, hiss at me. There's a hole in his mouth, and you could actually put something in there and pretend that you were eating. And then he'd swallow, and then it would go down into his stomach. And it would be a huge, big part of his body because they don't chew so much as it just sort of decays inside. It's the digestive system that they have. Like our tummies digest food. They digest food too. We'll hang you back up, Hiss. Over here, though, we have a rattlesnake. And he has diamond shapes on him. The diamonds are an indication that this is a rattlesnake. But the tail, when it gets scared, will go rattle, 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 rattle. And what that is just dried up skin that's on him. And it's inside of the end of the tail, and it's like a baby rattle. It goes rattle, rattle, rattle. So if you hear that, you know that he's frightened of you and that you should stay away. Remember in the book when I showed you the picture and told you about the animal shedding his skin? Well, I brought along a snake skin today. This part is his head. This is where his eyes would have been. And he rubbed up against the rock, just like in the book. And once he did that, he began to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle out of his skin. Because he had new skin underneath. And he had to make sure that this skin came off, otherwise it's too tight. It's like, do you remember when you had shoes that your toes hurt in? And then you got new shoes and your toes could move around? That's what it's like for the snake. It gets very tight, like old shoes. And then here's the part of his tail, right here at the very end. Remember, his tummy expands when he eats, and sometimes it takes 4 or 5 days before he gets hungry again. This is the top of the snake's skin, and here's his belly. And the way he moves is inside there are little muscles. And he will move along because his muscles are pulling him along. Very interesting. I felt very fortunate to find this one day when I was on a walk. And I've been able to keep it nicely so I could show it to you. When I see Hiss and I think about a boa constrictor, I think about a song that I know that's about I'm being eaten by a boa constrictor. And remember I told you that they can disengage their jaw and make it really big? Well, imagine if it was actually trying to eat you or me. And it would open its mouth, and the way the song goes is, I'm being eaten by a boa constrictor. A boa constrictor, a boa constrictor. I'm being eaten by a boa constrictor. Oh no, he swallowed my toes. Oh gee, he's up to my knee. Oh fiddle, he's got my middle. Oh dread, he swallowed my head. Have fun today. I hope you don't get eaten by a boa constrictor. Bye-bye.